Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at Stoicism, but with a bit of a twist. We're going to tackle the age-old idea that it's just, you know, a man thing. Our exploration is inspired by the book Stoicism is for Everyone, Why Strength Knows No Gender, and we're really going to try and uncover how this ancient philosophy can be a powerful tool for all of us, no matter our gender.
Yeah, and you know what often gets lost in that whole man thing stereotype? It's the fact that Stoicism, at its core, is really about these virtues that are just universally human, right? Resilience, wisdom, being able to face those curveballs life throws at you with some grace. These aren't qualities that are bound by gender.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that really struck me about this book. It really tackles that stereotype head on. And, for anyone listening who might be thinking, okay, Stoicism, remind me again, could you give us just a quick rundown of what those main principles are?
Of course. In a nutshell, Stoicism is about understanding that some things are within our control and some things are not. It's about focusing on what we can control, accepting what we can't, and finding a sense of inner peace, even when life gets chaotic. And at the heart of it all, it emphasizes self-mastery, the idea that our thoughts and reactions are ultimately within our power.
Okay, so it's not about suppressing your emotions, but more about choosing how you respond to them.
You got it. It's about cultivating that mindful awareness of our emotions and then making intentional choices, rather than just, reacting without thinking.
That makes sense. So then how does this idea of Stoicism as a man thing, how does that even come about?
Well, I think that misconception comes from a pretty narrow view of what we even mean by strength. Like traditional masculinity often equates strength with this idea of being stoic, but in a very limited sense, suppressing your emotions, being dominant, never showing vulnerability. But real stoicism, the philosophy, it actually turns that on its head.
I see what you're saying. It's almost like by limiting Stoicism to being a man thing, we're actually limiting its true potential.
Exactly. And we end up reinforcing these harmful stereotypes, right? Stereotypes that end up boxing men.
For sure.
But Stoicism, it challenges those rigid definitions of masculinity. It encourages men to develop their emotional intelligence, to practice patience, to cultivate wisdom. And these are all qualities that not only make them better individuals, but also contribute to healthier relationships and communities.
So it's kind of saying, hey, real strength actually comes from understanding and managing your emotions, not denying them.
Absolutely. And it's not just men who benefit from this. Throughout history, women have embodied these stoic virtues, often quietly and without much recognition, navigating societal pressures and expectations with resilience and wisdom.
That's so true. And the book actually highlights some fascinating examples. Like, think about Hypatia, the incredible philosopher and mathematician from Roman Egypt. Can you imagine being a woman in that era, defying all those societal norms to pursue knowledge and really challenge those intellectual boundaries?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Her life is a real testament to stoicism in action. Think about it. She faced such immense obstacles and societal pressures, yet she chose to focus on what she could control, her pursuit of knowledge, her reason, her inner strength.
It totally shatters the stereotype of Stoicism as just this, like, masculine pursuit, right? Clearly, women have always found strength and empowerment in these principles, but were there other women throughout history who also embodied these Stoic qualities?
Oh, absolutely. Take Queen Zenobia of Palmyra, for example. Talk about courage and strategic thinking. She led a rebellion against the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
against incredible odds. And her story really hammers home the idea that strength and leadership aren't about gender. They're about the choices we make in the face of adversity.
That's a powerful point. It's so interesting to see how these historical figures embodied the Stoic ideal, even if they weren't specifically calling it that. But, let's bring it to the present. How are women applying Stoic principles in their lives today?
You see it everywhere. I mean, women today are juggling so much, demanding careers, family responsibilities, societal expectations, and personal challenges. Stoicism provides this amazing framework for navigating all of that with, grace and resilience. It helps them prioritize what truly matters, cultivate that inner peace amidst the chaos, and respond to challenges with strength and clarity.
So it's almost like it gives them the tools to define their own success on their own terms.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming that sense of agency and finding empowerment in a world that so often tries to dictate how women should think, feel, and behave.
It's such a powerful message. It sounds like Stoicism isn't about fitting into a mold, but about cultivating a mindset that helps you thrive no matter what's going on around you.
You've got it. It's about recognizing that true strength comes from within. And that ability to navigate the ups and downs with wisdom and resilience, it's a universally human quality.
That's giving me a lot to think about already. But before we go any further, we have to talk about how Stoicism can help men redefine their own strength.
Absolutely. That's a crucial part of this conversation. And it's where things get really interesting. See, Stoicism encourages men to embrace a more holistic view of what it means to be strong, one that goes beyond traditional masculine ideals and embraces emotional intelligence.
So it's about understanding that true strength actually lies in self-awareness, emotional regulation, and being able to connect with others on a deeper level.
Precisely. And this challenges that whole idea that men should always be stoic in that traditional sense,
Hmm.
unemotional, unwavering, invulnerable. Stoicism, the philosophy, allows for vulnerability. It encourages men to acknowledge their emotions, to understand them, and to choose healthy ways to express them.
It's a really refreshing perspective, especially in a world that often tells men to just man up and suppress their emotions.
Right. It's a much healthier and more sustainable approach to masculinity. Stoicism encourages men to tap into their inner strength by acknowledging their full range of emotions and developing the skills to manage them effectively.
So not about denying emotions, but more about developing the wisdom and self-awareness to respond to them in a way that aligns with your values.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true strength lies in self-mastery, and emotional intelligence is a key part of that.
I love how Stoicism flips the script on traditional masculinity.
Yeah.
It shows that vulnerability and emotional intelligence are actually strengths, not weaknesses. But before we get too deep into that, let's talk about some specific examples of how Stoicism can empower both men and women in unique ways.
That's a great idea. Let's unpack how these ancient principles can actually be applied to modern life and see how Stoicism truly offers something for everyone. All right, so let's get into those specific examples. Imagine a woman, right? She's facing a really tough work environment, maybe feeling overlooked, undermined. You know the feeling. Well, Stoicism steps in and reminds her, hey, you can't control what other people do or think, but you can control your own response.
So instead of letting that frustration or anger take over, she could use those Stoic principles to focus on what she can control: her work ethic, her contributions, her mindset.
That's it. It's about putting her energy into what she can influence and finding peace in knowing that her self-worth doesn't depend on someone else's validation. And this brings to mind a really interesting Stoic practice: negative visualization.
Negative visualization. That sounds kind of, well, counterintuitive, doesn't it? Isn't Stoicism about being positive?
It is, but in a way that's grounded in reality. Negative visualization is about imagining the worst-case scenario, not to get all doom and gloom, but to mentally and emotionally prepare yourself. So, for that woman in the tough job, it might mean picturing losing her job.
Okay, I see. So by mentally preparing for the worst, it can actually reduce her anxiety and help her focus on what she can do right now to improve things.
Exactly. And if the worst does happen, she'll be more resilient because she's already thought it through. It's about regaining control in a situation where you might feel powerless.
That's a really interesting way to apply Stoicism.
Now flip the script. Think about a man grappling with those societal expectations of what it means to be successful. That pressure to achieve, to have it all. Stoicism offers a totally different definition of success, one that's rooted in virtue and living in harmony with nature.
So instead of chasing those external things like wealth or status, he's encouraged to focus on building his character and contributing to something bigger than himself.
Exactly. It's about finding contentment in living a virtuous life. No matter those external achievements, imagine that same man facing a financial setback, right? Stoicism reminds him that material possessions are ultimately outside his control.
It's a good reminder that what truly matters are things like his character, his relationships, his contributions to the world.
Right. Such a powerful antidote to all that anxiety and pressure that comes with constantly seeking validation from outside sources.
It is. So we've seen how Stoicism can be really empowering for both men and women in very specific situations. But how relevant is Stoicism in our modern world? Some people might see it as a bit outdated.
I'd argue that it's more relevant now than ever. I mean, think about it. We live in a world of constant distractions, information overload, and pressure to conform. Stoicism offers a framework for finding clarity, peace, and purpose in all that chaos. Remember Massimo Pigliucci, the modern Stoic philosopher?
Oh yeah, he's the one who really emphasizes those practical applications of Stoicism in everyday life.
That's the one. And one of his key points is that Stoicism isn't about becoming some kind of emotionless robot. It's about understanding our emotions, accepting them, and then choosing how we want to respond to them, which is so essential in a world designed to trigger our emotional reactions all the time.
So it's like a mental toolkit for navigating all the ups and downs of modern life. Stoicism teaches us to pause, take a breath, and choose our response instead of just reacting on impulse. It's a skill that could benefit everyone, I think.
For sure. Another important thing Pigliucci talks about is living in accordance with nature. And that doesn't mean we all have to go live in a cabin in the woods. It's about recognizing that we're interconnected with everything around us and trying to live in a way that's harmonious with that.
I like that. It's about finding that balance and purpose in our lives, recognizing we're part of something much bigger.
That's it. It's about aligning our actions with our values and realizing that true fulfillment comes from living a life of meaning and virtue.
This is all starting to paint a really compelling picture of how Stoicism can actually be applied in the real world. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on what makes Stoicism so powerful for everyone.
For me, it really comes down to its universality. It's a philosophy that speaks to what it means to be human. These principles transcend time, culture, and, yeah, even gender. To face challenges head-on with resilience and find meaning even when things are tough.
It's like Stoicism is saying, look, we all go through these struggles no matter who we are or where we come from, and here's a way to navigate them.
That's it. And what's so great is that it doesn't give you this rigid set of rules. It's more like a flexible framework that you can adapt to your own life.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all. It's more like a set of guiding principles to help you find your own way. And that's something our source, Stoicism is for Everyone, really emphasizes. It's a call to move beyond those old stereotypes and see the real potential of Stoicism for everybody.
Right. True strength doesn't come from fitting into a box. It comes from building that inner resilience and wisdom. And that goes for all of us.
One of the things that really resonates with me is that Stoicism doesn't tell you to deny your emotions. It's not about pretending to be something you're not.
Yeah, it's about understanding them, accepting them, and then making a choice about how you want to respond.
Exactly.
It's about finding that sweet spot between acceptance and action, recognizing that, yeah, we can't control everything that happens, but we can control how we react, how we choose to see things, and ultimately how we choose to live our lives.
It's about taking ownership of your inner world,
Yeah.
cultivating that strength and wisdom within, and using that to navigate the world around you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And by doing that, we don't just empower ourselves, we inspire others too.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Stoicism, we want to leave you with something to think about. How can you bring these principles into your life? What Stoic virtue really speaks to you, and how can you make it even stronger? Maybe it's practicing gratitude, trying out that negative visualization thing, or even just taking a moment to pause and reflect before you react to a tough situation.
And remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Striving to be just a little bit better each day, cultivating those virtues that lead to a more fulfilling life, a life with real meaning.
And that's what makes it so powerful. It's a journey, not a destination. This lifelong pursuit of wisdom, resilience, and living in alignment with what you believe in.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into this ancient philosophy that has so much to offer us today.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Stoicism. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep questioning those assumptions, and most importantly, keep living a life that's full of purpose and meaning.